because I have to make sure that it's within our
You wanna turn
government
it up?
tenant
Or-
to apply the license correctly, so.
Can you talk again, Jerry?
I saw your smile.
Awesome.
Turn it up.
Am I loud enough, Debbie?
Yeah, well, you can turn it up.
How's that?
You made it?
I can talk louder if you need.
That
Perfect.
worked? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can look.
I just want to make sure you got it.
I did.
Just kind of weird, like you want to look
No.
in there, but.
$2,100.
I want
I actually don't.
I feel like
Pretty good, because when we do the voucher stuff, because there was another question I had in the voucher too. So that we pull that.
The thing today is
Thank you, David.
tonight is what we talked
It
about
is 5
the
o'clock.
last 2 weeks
It
with the changes,
Yes, yeah.
the matrix, the new
Yeah.
matrix.
is 5 o'clock.
Alrighty, it is 5 o'clock. Thank you very much. We'll bring the finance committee of September 24th to order, and our roll call includes all the council members present, and the mayor is present also. Thank you very much for attending.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Moving on to our approval of our minutes. Do we have any changes?
No changes.
I see no changes to our minutes. We could move on to the department reports and presentations and personnel update by.
Good evening, everyone. I have, just going off of our staffing update, we have a new hire in the finance department, accounting specialist for Chris Jensen.
Right.
Sure, seems to be happy about that.
Yeah.
Kristen Desna was promoted in the series to a legal specialist too.
Mhm.
We are in receipt of applications for a fleet manager, which we had initial interviews and are conducting second interviews the second week of October. And then we have, maintenance worker 1, 2 in streets, as well as mechanic 1, engineering specialist closing soon. Are there any questions on any of these recruitments?
No, other than maybe you can update me on what our current offer concept is with police officers. Is that we have like a bonus kind of thing? Just because I heard the radio talking.
Yeah.
Ads about other things. Is there still like a bonus kind of thing with that we do?
For the lateral
Yeah, lateral.
offers, I was under the impression that we were done with that for now, but
Okay,
I'm not for sure. Don't know for sure. I mean, I know they were getting,
I didn't know.
that through savings,
The only reason I mentioned that is because other cities is like, they're paying some insane stuff, and of course, that's roundy round argument again about, how you pay that kind of a thing.
I think Seattle went up to 50,000.
I know.
Yeah.
Entry
But
levels
it's-
are
yeah.
77, yeah.
Right.
So the council did approve that. The council did approve that, Deputy Mayor, and I believe it goes through 2024. And yeah, it was with the salary savings. I
Okay.
think it's off the top of my head, I'm thinking it was like 20,000, 10,000 upfront and then 10,000 after, I think it was 12 or 18 months of service.
Okay,
That's correct,
Yeah,
yes.
that sounds right.
Yeah.
I do know, Des Moines, I think, is starting to back theirs off. They had gone up to 40,000 and they're like, well, this isn't really working out as well as we thought it was going to.
yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, the city of Des Moines has about a $10 million budget shortfall is what I heard.
Ooh.
So they're looking to lay people off.
Okay,
Hmm.
well, on that happy note, I guess we can move along to something else. Go ahead.
What about, Bill DeLeo?
Yeah, Phil DeLeo.
He retired?
He did, yes.
And so are we going to be replacing him or?
Yes, we will start recruiting for that soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that, he was our main bus driver still or something, right?
He
So-
was
Right, yeah,
kind of
that's the
managed,
focus
but
of-
he kind of did everything.
Yeah.
Phil was,
Like-
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
So did we, give him a retirement party or anything?
Yeah, he had a retirement on his last day, which was the 18th, and then he's
Okay.
getting a street sign. It just hasn't arrived yet.
Oh, okay.
Phil's Drive.
Nice. Shouldn't be like circled or something. Phil, he's just. Phil's court.
Phil's
Phil's loop. Alright. Any other questions?
No, I think that's good. Thank you. I just wanted to
Yeah.
check in on Phil there.
Indeed, yeah, he's a long time. He used to be a council member. He did-
I know, yeah.
He's actually the person that picked me because it was 3 3. So he was the deciding vote originally.
Oh, were you appointed originally? Oh,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
History buff. Anyways, so our discussion action items include resolution 24-106. It was between me and Randy McKibben, by the way. Interagency agreement. Who's in that one?
okay, I think that's what we have Dina here, right? Or-
I think so. It's Jerry.
Oh, Jerry?
Jerry, okay.
Jerry's? Okay,
This
thanks,
is,
Jerry.
yep, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
hi.
Okay. Hi, so, this was a special project of mine. Normally, the courts during a pretrial stage, depending on the facts of a case of whether or not individuals, have to remain in custody or out of custody, sometimes scram, which is an alcohol device that goes around your ankle. There are times where EHM, a home monitoring, where people they're allowed out of custody, but they still have to stay at home, and the judge will allow to let them go to medical appointments, court hearings, church, grocery, stuff like that, and or could be random UAs pending final disposition of a case. And so there are times when individuals are found indigent where they cannot pay for this, but it is a condition that needs to be imposed uh, to the case itself. And so the courts are billed for these services. And then the costs are discussed at the final disposition on contribution for the defendant to either pay it back, depending on their financial status. Well, I was able to find a grant for this. And so I applied for this grant and we were awarded $29,500 to go towards this. So what this does is it actually reimburses the court and the city for a cost that we're already paying for on its own. So it's a win-win for the defendants because it gives more opportunity to where that they can still maintain their employment and the care of their family while they're waiting to take care of their court matters at the same time and still maintain compliance to conditions imposed by the court during this period of a pretrial status. And so what they have done, this type of grant is normally for the superior courts. And so this is actually called a pretrial task reform force, where they did a um, research on this. I think it was back in 2019, 2017, 2019, and I attached that for your review to see the outcome that they found regarding individuals who are allowed out during their pretrial status versus being kept in custody. Especially those that there is no safety concern to themselves or the community, but they still have conditions that they are unable to afford financially. Um, if their finances basically pays their rent and their food and utilities, there's nothing left over. And so a lot of them times individuals find that they cannot get these conditions installed and they end up remaining in custody because they don't have the financial need for it. And so there are times when the court goes ahead and has them hooked up and the court is billed for these services during the pretrial status. And like I said, it's discussed at the disposition regarding contribution or reimbursement of the whole cost. This grant will take care of that to where individuals, we won't have to um, impose on them what they cannot afford because we'll be able to have this grant there to help us and to help them too and still be able to maintain the care of their family and take care of their court. So basically, we're asking that the city allow us to sign this agency agreement with AOC. It's a pilot program. We will be attending meetings once a month. Um, Stacy Lamont in our court support services, she is on board with this program. She will be doing data analysis and generating the reports of the outcomes on how well individuals being out on Scram, EHM, or having random UAs, how it has helped them along the way. These data analysis will be turned into AOC with other courts that are doing the same thing. And that'll make a determination of how they're going to be able to move forward with the same funding next year. So we've been invited to participate in this pilot program, and I'm really excited about it if the city will allow us to do that.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, is this going to require extra staffing, or is this something that, the court already does? Keeping all of this extra data to send in monthly, or bi-monthly, whatever I think it's monthly, it's supposed to be sent in. So is this gonna require a lot of extra time?
It is not. The services itself is what the court already provides. And so it's just a reimbursement of the costs on that portion. And Stacy Lamont already handles data analysis for both courts, Bonney Lake and Sumner, for pretrial status regarding random urinalysis, and sends in certain um, specimens in for testing if need to be. So it's already been done. There would be a little extra work for Stacy, but that falls under her preview within her duties itself. And so there's no additional staff needed. Um, still the same amount of the defendants that comes through court every day. Nothing changes. The only thing changes is um, the courts in the city would be reimbursed for costs that they're already paying for this.
Okay, so we're actually already paying for these services if the I don't know if it's a defendant or if the person involved is not able to pay for themselves, then that's something that we actually end up having to kind of eat the cost of that. So this would help recover costs.
It would, everything but the random UAs. Random UAs are a part of pretrial norms for testing for alcohol or drugs. So the given on that one is this would completely reimburse us for that portion. That is not a cost that is passed on to individuals before the court, the random UAs. The EHM and the SCRAM, the judge will make a determination of whether or not the defendant can or cannot pay for that, and then decide whether or not the court is to be billed. That doesn't happen very often, but when it does, this will give the opportunity for the city to be paid back for that. It doesn't happen on every case, but we do have some individuals that they are at borderline indigency, to where they do not have that regular funds to get Scram or EHM. If they do, then something has to give. Either they can't pay a utility bill or buy a day's worth of groceries. It all depends. And then this will this will alleviate that burden. With this grant, we'll be able to pay for that for them if it is imposed as a condition by the judge.
Okay.
Is that just what the funds are used for then? Is only to pay for those EHM or GPS or SCRAM or UA?
Yeah,
You said not
that-
you.
Yep, that's the only thing is to be used for.
1 year, is it?
Till June 30th, 2025.
Sounds like you said that this was a grant that may be move forward for next year, so it might be an ongoing type of thing potentially.
Yes, sir.
This is the
Yep.
first year.
This is the first year that they have invited the district and municipal courts to participate.
So
Yeah. There, we don't have to go through public safety with this, I guess. It's a time sensitive kind of thing. Is why we were.
Yes, we asked the chair of public safety and she was okay with it coming to finance.
Didn't want to step on anybody's toes over there. So.
Yeah.
Check that box first.
Yay. Alrighty then. Any other questions?
No.
Sounds great. We can move this one forward to the whatever available council meeting you want to put it on. Is it on tonight?
No, it's not on tonight.
Consent?
I think it's gonna be the 8th of October for the next council.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
consent.
Doesn't matter.
No discussion on it.
Yeah.
No money,
And
no money involved.
yeah, if I can, I'd like to just say one more thing if
Yeah. Mhm.
if you'll I want to thank each and every one of you. It's just come to my attention that the protocol for the agendas coming out of court should always go to public safety and not finance. So I myself have been sending it to your committee if it involved any kind of money because it said finance. So I truly appreciate the indulgence that you have given me as I learn everything that needs to be done in the protocol when we're forwarding the agendas. And the council person Fullerton, I want to thank you for allowing this to be heard tonight because it could have been bumped over to public safety, which as deputy mayor said, it is time sensitive to where we're trying to get this back to AOC. But I just wanted to thank you, each and every one of you, for overlooking my error in sending all my financial agendas to your department. I won't be doing that again, so I may not see you as often as I have. And so, but that's okay. I like to observe, especially to see what's going on out there and what may or may not pertain to the court. So, but I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and Jerry, you can't take all the ownership in the air. I know you and I talked back and forth about which committee this went to, so I will accept part of the air as well.
No worries, because sometimes they end up, they bouncing around a little bit because we have questions about some of the background of whatever the procedures, not on this one, but if there's some involvement with a PD or something directly, maybe it'd be more appropriate for the public safety to also get a view on it, so there's no real outright cut and dried kind of thing, but, so things will bounce around often.
I'm fine with it going to, or to.
Sure.
Are you gonna stick around, Jerry?
It's not
Yes,
a-
ma'am.
Okay.
So it is a consent agenda.
It's already
item there.
something we're doing, something we're already paying for. We're just getting a reimbursement. So I'm
Just
fine.
talking yourself into it.
I am talking myself into it, guys.
All right.
Jerry, you talked me into it. You're good.
And as per usual, any council member has a question when it comes about or something, or think of something later, I encourage you to go ahead and pull it off there and inform the mayor during the meeting, and we can separate it out and, drill into any of the details of it. This one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think it was good. I think consent agenda would be great.
Yep.
Mhm.
I agree. So we move along to, what do we got left? Where's my agenda at here?
Back up at the top.
Fee schedule, yeah, I put that on there, just because FYI, it's unclear to me what the council, where they're going on that, right? I didn't want you guys to do a bunch of work. You're more than welcome to do a bunch of work and kind of demonstrating your case for it, right? Because there is that kind of a thing, and we're talking about all of their fees, whether it's building permit fees or park fees or who knows what kind of fees, right? Public printing fees, whatever they are.
Yeah,
you know, and so then that's why I wanted to kind of have a pre-discussion kind of thing with, because of course, you know, a lot of times staff will go out and do studies or find out what other people are paying and charging. They're welcome to do that. Of course, part of the discussion probably, but maybe, you know, if the council, because I'm hearing several council members say, hey, wait a minute, you know, these charges are out of control. We don't need people to pay, you know, $500 to get a cat license or whatever it is, or, you know, some kind of permit or yada, yada, that type of thing. And I think there's some discussion there amongst the council. So I don't, with the finance committee, with you guys specifically, that's for where would you guys, what's your tendency on where do you have any pain points out there that you're gonna say, hey, wait a minute, you know, yeah, we don't want Jason doing a bunch of work and then, you know, come to us and we're like, yeah, no, right? You know, we want to be kind of, whatever, they can do that. Cause,
Yeah.
right.
I think just in my, like, you know, talking with Jason, we've gone through and we met and talked about, looking at other cities and stuff. There's cities below us, there's cities above us, there's some dramatically below us, but they haven't raised their prices in many years. And so they're going to be doing that soon is what, I've heard. So if they're gonna be doing that, they're supposed to be bringing their prices up for permits and costs and things. I think though, we still really need to make sure that we're truly only charging what our cost is. I think we need to look at what was that one? The person that looks over the hearing examiner.
Yeah, I had some comments
Yeah.
or whatever.
So that one was really astronomical high, and so I just want to make sure, and then, you know, make sure we're really truly only charging what our cost is, not above and beyond, because it is a lot, and that is one of the biggest things that people do complain about. We know that we're gonna work on our processes. We know that's gonna happen, so we're not as worried about that right now, because we know we're gonna get that done here in the near future, but.
Right. But is the philosophy to kind of like charge what it kind of costs or do cost
So-
recovery on it? Or is the other thing that's like?
So
yeah,
what
citizens-
Jason and I talked about was, we currently charge cost recovery.
We're actually below.
Okay,
Sure,
below cost
yeah.
recovery. So as Jason explained it to me is, think about it this way. If you're gonna go build a house,
Mhm.
every other taxpayer doesn't wanna pay for you to permit to build your house. That's how he explained it to me.
Sure.
So, or as a business owner, it's not the rest of the general public's responsibility to pay for your permit fees. So, and I do agree with that, but I wanna make sure that we're being very fair and we're not charging too much in those
Sure,
departments,
yeah.
because it is so expensive. If we're using the wrong hearing examiners, or if we're doing something different, there's a way we can bring some of our costs down.
But there is the flip side of the value of the person building a home or starting a business or, you know.
Absolutely.
landscaping kind of thing or whatever.
And we can
So,
even look at that as an option, but we just need to decide if that's something we want,
Okay.
you know, our sales tax dollars to be paying for, or if we want
Mhm.
the general public to pay for their own.
Yeah, there's an argument about, you know,
Each way.
how much staff actually costs anyways,
Right.
cause you know, it's kind of like they're here anyways type of a thing, so.
We're gonna be paying them one way or the other, so do we cost recover? Do we eat some of it? What do we do? That's kind of where we need to kind of figure out what we wanna do, but Jason will.
Where's Councilmember Fulton on the philosophy, whatever it is?
My brain went right to parking, at
Sure.
Allen York,
Uh-huh.
and, a $250 ticket for not paying a $4 fee is just mind boggling to me. Like, way to put a family in debt, because, you know, like, I don't think that the cost recovery for the police officer to write a ticket for $250 on a, you know, and it was a brand new app, it was a brand new system, and all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna, you know, take away your car payment.
Is that on the fee schedule or is that someplace else?
That's actually hard coded in the code. And the reason that it was raised to $250 is based on comments made to the police officers. It used to be $25. And
Might be a little bit lower.
when people went to write the ticket, the people were telling the cops, not this summer, previous summers, that write me the ticket, I don't care. Right, because it's so low. And that was not
Yeah.
just in the park, but that was on where they were parking in people's driveways. They were like, I don't care if you write me the ticket, I'm leaving my car there because it's $25.
So is there one fee associated with, like you said, wherever they're parked? It doesn't matter whether it's the Allen York or the
Yeah.
side lot in front of somebody's, either going to park across somebody's driveway.
Do we know how much was collected this last summer in those?
I don't know.
I think that would be a question for the court as
Yeah.
Research.
those go through, because the court,
Yeah.
if you get one of those violations, you pay the court. You don't pay the PD or finance, it's the parking violation.
And it's important to remember, you only pay the ticket if you don't pay to park. So that's a penalty for not following the rules, right? So it was trying to create a difference to encourage people that it's better just to play by the rule than it is to.
What if somebody paid the, 4-hour parking, but then they ended up being there for 6 hours because, the sun didn't go down as early as we thought it would?
The app tells them that they're running out of time and they can extend it right on their phone.
Okay.
They don't even have to walk back to the parking lot. The app will say, you have 30 minutes remaining. Do you want to extend? And they can extend it right there on their phone, sitting on the
Okay.
beach.
Do they have to download an app? Or
Yeah.
can
They
they,
don't have to. They can do it on the website, meaning, you can do it.
will they
on
get
the-
a reminder?
You have to
on
get
the
a text.
website?
They get a text.
They get a text.
Or
That's
an
pretty
email.
cool. I actually used it, when we were in Spokane,
Yeah.
doing that thing, right? And you just do the little barcode thing or
Mhm.
the QR code deal,
Mhm.
sends you right to the thing. It'll send you a text and this is where you're at and everything. It's pretty amazing.
And around 80% use just the website, did not use the app. So,
And then
and
you-
that will change over time. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the market leader, you might say. I mean, they've got all universities practically all over the country. I have used it all over the place. And if you have the app, it's very easy. You don't have to remember anything. You just say, I'm here, I'm paying, I'm done.
Is there, at least in writing, there's a warning that you're gonna pay
On every sign.
$50 fine if you don't
Yes.
pay?
On
Regardless?
Yeah, on every sign, right below where it says paid parking in effect, March or whatever the dates are, it says $250 fine and or towing. So it's,
And the PD did do warnings for, I think it was 2 weeks beforehand, and they did flyers, they wrote in their paint on the back windshields, and they would find people come back, didn't pay, and they have the paint from yesterday on their windshield, because they know they're getting warnings, so they're not gonna pay. So maybe the court can find out how many violations were actually written. There were a fair number at the beginning. I think it definitely,
Mhm.
once the word got out,
All right.
it went down.
Okay.
Okay.
So on like a lot of the other fees we'll be looking at, I would assume, are everything, like some of the permit fees, different things possibly.
yeah, so, we did go through, and I guess, let me take a step back.
Mhm.
It's important to know when we're talking about permit fees that, we're committed to work with the finance committee and the city council to find ways to lower the cost of development. But it's also important to remember that just simply lowering the fee doesn't necessarily equate to lower development costs. It just is a shifting of that cost between the taxpayer and the person doing the project. Also, well, no, I mean, the number of hours we're going to charge or number of hours it takes to process that permit are the same. Lowering the fee doesn't change the number of hours it takes us to process a permit. The fees that we charge for permits are also, if you remember, are primarily driven by state law. So we have to do building permits. That's RCW 1927. We have to do critical area reviews. That's 3670A.
But it
We
doesn't
have
mean you have to charge for it.
We have to. No. Right, we have to charge for SEPA, we have to charge for plats, we have to do permits for shoreline. So all these permits that we are charging, I'd say probably 90-ish% that we're charging permit fees are permits that we as a city are required to review and issue by state law.
Yeah.
As I said, reducing the fee doesn't necessarily lower the cost of processing that application because the work involved, such as the staff hours, mailing hours, hearing examiners, remain the same. And I've already mentioned, if we don't collect enough cost, it just transfers that money.
Well,
Eh,
are
Sorry.
we, with the permit, are we paying the staff extra? So do they get like a bonus? They get a percentage of the of the permit when they
No,
write a permit?
this is what covers
So
this,
they're literally in the office doing a job.
but this is what
So,
covers their salary and benefits.
yeah.
So if you remove the permit fee as a revenue, you create a negative in your general fund, and the money that you have for recreation, for prosecution, for the clerk's offices goes down because that's going to cover processing permits.
Yeah.
Right? And so this way, because you only have so much money in the general fund. And when you start taking the permit fee and lowering it, you're creating more of a drag on the general fund. So the permit fees are coming in to pay for that planner to be in the office to review the permits, for the building inspector to be there to review the plans and then do the inspections in the field. So yes, they are there doing the job, but the revenue that helps pay for and cover those costs are the permit fees. If you didn't have the permit fees, then you would have less money for the senior center, less money for recreation, less money for those optional things, because state law mandates that we get these permits, we review these permits, and we issue these permits.
Right.
So you have to have the staff available to do those things.
Well,
And
or are you gonna process somewhere else?
And I
You
really
do
like, I really like
no, we
Councilmember
process all
Hugh.
the permits in
Well,
house.
maybe you have some like engineering work. or
We
something.
have some consultants that we
Yeah.
have to
But
supplement
eventually- Yeah,
that,
right, yeah.
but you would still have to pay those consultants at a much higher rate
Yeah.
than you have to pay the staff with, and they wouldn't be available when people walk in to ask a question.
But you could like go
So-
to Pierce County and say, you know,
Sherry.
we're gonna have you do our permits, or there's multiple places you can go. You can actually, there's like umpteen million private companies that process permits.
Right, but you would still have to collect revenue.
Well, not necessarily, but yes, you have. to
You
pay for
have to
that
get rid of
somehow,
all the
right?
staff then. So
You
basically,
have to pay for all of that.
You don't get it for free.
And I would say your consultants cost twice, if not three times what staff cost.
Well, but hopefully, you know, yeah, and that'll be kind of the interesting, I don't know where it's not
I have
really
two-
my thing, it's I hear the
Yeah.
council talk about it. Go
I
ahead,
have
Sherry.
two
sorry,
comments.
I just-
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I really like how Councilmember Huber put it. And if it came from Jason, great. I think that's a really good way to think of it, that if I'm building a house and if I'm not paying my fair share of the costs of Jason and his staff to build that house, then it's every other resident that is paying for that, because the general fund is tax dollars, sales tax dollars. It's coming from the other residents. So I really appreciate you commenting. I love that analogy. Another thing I learned while I was at the finance officers conference last week, and I told John this, but I haven't had a chance to tell Jason, a lot of cities, because they're running up against these issues, are actually switching their permitting departments entirely to an enterprise fund. So like your water department, your sewer department, so that way the city isn't paying for anything, all staff, all permits, everything, and they have to be self-supporting. So that's a new thing that's coming. A lot of cities are switching to that so that these discussions aren't turned into, well, we want to lower the fees, and it's to show that the fees are truly supporting the costs of having the staff and doing the inspections, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll have to talk
there-
about that some more. That's
Is there a
interesting.
way to see, like, if somebody's applying for a permit to build a deck, how many hours and what the actual cost is for us to see that?
What we've done, what we've proposed on the fee schedule that I gave to Stephanie that's coming on October 1st, that's the work's already done, is we actually went through and we looked at how many hours on average it takes to process that type of a permit. We also know what the average fully loaded staff cost is, right? When you take in hourly plus medical plus benefits, right? We know what that cost is. And we simply multiplied the number of hours times that rate, and that gives you what the permit fee should be. And that's what we put in the fee schedule. I can include that chart
I would love to see that.
with you. It is our best estimate, based on both mine and Lauren's experience and also talking with Medi. Lauren and I both been doing this for 20 years, so we have a pretty good grip on how many hours it takes to do something. We really don't have a process where you can track it by hour. Like we don't have that technology set up right now where you could track each permit by hour. But then there's a cost to do that because that's another step that you're having the staff do. So two-sided coin.
I thought you just said you knew how many hours it takes to process.
We have an estimate on average a deck takes X.
Right.
Or on average, but that's based on just my experience.
But you should be able to take the number in that kind of a scenario. You should be able to take the number of permits you're processing, multiply it times your hours estimation, and then say, oh, I got 80 hours of staff, I got 80 hours of permits.
But that's permit review. There's also inspection. And this is the other.
That's different though. That's a different fee. It's a different thing we're talking about.
Right, I agree. But that's the other part. And I think the other reason that you see people moving towards enterprise funds is people are prepaying for inspection services. So when someone gets a building permit, they pay all of their inspection fee that day. That permit may last 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there is money that we collected back 2 biennium budgets ago that we're still performing service on, even though that revenue is not showing up in our current daily ledger. It just got dumped into the general fund and as part of that ending fund balance. But we're still, so if we didn't take in another building permit for the next year, I still have 2+ years of inspection work that 2 full-time inspectors need to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, not bringing in one more penny in building permit revenue, you still have 2 years worth of liability on inspection. So, it's really important when you talk about fees, it's a fee for service. It's not by state law, it cannot be a money-making thing. RCW 82020 specifically says you cannot charge permit fees and make money. So there are always going to be functions in the department that are not covered by permit fees. Long-range planning, all of that has to be covered by the general fund. We can't use permit fees to pay for any of our long-range planning efforts that we're required to do. So even if we were an enterprise fund, there would be a portion of salaries and benefits that would still be paid for by the general fund to cover that function, because it cannot be covered by permit fees by state law. And so the council member or deputy mayor Swatman is actually correct. As long as you're not making money on the permit fee, you could set anywhere below full cost recovery and below. That's the council's priority where they want to set those fees. The challenge is if you drop the fees over here, all you're doing is create, and you can put all your fees at 0 and say, hey, we're gonna issue permits for free here at the city of Bonney Lake. But that means that cost is then borne by the general taxpayer, and money for the prosecution, money for recreation, money for all the other city functions gets basically hit to cover that cost. Yes, you could contract with, you could contract out for some of these things. There are some union issues there probably, but I'm not going to get into those. But you could, in theory, contract those things. But those agencies are just going to take their staff cost, pass them through to the city, plus an administrative fee. If you go to a consultant firm, I can tell you right now, consultants are charging about $300 an hour, which is about half our fully loaded rate.
Sure.
So yes, you can do all those things. But with consultants, you're also not going to get people who know the city of Bonney Lake, who know the city council, who are invested with the city, and are able to come to the front counter and answer questions, because they're going to be somewhere in the state of Washington just looking at paper. So yeah,
necessarily be in the state of Washington.
somewhere, it could be anywhere. So that's another. I mean, those are our options. The point I was trying to make is that to truly focus on cost and lowering permit fees, you have to look at lowering the actual cost of processing the permit, not just lowering the fee. So there's things that we have done, and we're committed to continuing to talk and explore these that we've already done in the past to reduce the actual cost of processing a permit, which reduce the fee.
And Tyler's gonna help with that.
So Tyler's one, but things we've already done and that have already happened is we used to publish every public hearing notice in the newspaper. So every hearing notice, every land use application notice we published in the newspaper, which was $500 to $600. That was a pass through right to the applicants. That wasn't required by state law. We removed that requirement, lowering costs, thus lowering the permitting fee. We've upped our SEPA categorical exemptions. So projects don't have to, not all projects have to go through SEPA, which lowered the cost of that permit, thus lowering fees. Of course, you know, doing the permitting software, we'll be able to possibly, once that's implemented, look at what we're charging for intake, because we'll have more efficient systems, which could lower cost. Other things that we're already looking at is, we did talk to Puyallup about their hearing examiner. They charge it, there's a difference. We charge basically a flat rate, so we have really good predictability. Whereas Puyallup does an hourly rate with their hearing examiner, and they're seeing a pretty significant reduction in the cost when they do that. So that's one thing when we look at the new hearing examiner contract, which will be coming to the finance committee here in the next couple months, is looking at possibly moving to a hourly rate structure with a hearing examiner, and then assuming so many hours, like 6 or 7 hours. Downside is if the hearing goes really, really long, we might eat some of those costs, but that's a small risk if we build it right. The other thing that we're looking at is doing what we call programmatic SEPA for lake taps, which means that when people build docks new docks on lake taps, they wouldn't have to go through the SEPA review process, which lowers the fee because we've lowered the requirements. So we are committed to collaboratively working with the finance department, the finance committee, on ways to actually reduce the development cost so that we can reduce the actual fee. Just lowering the fee, the STC, the impact fee, doesn't lower the cost of doing the thing that we need to do. It just transfers that burden to the general taxpayer versus to the developer or the entity that's benefiting from that construction activity.
And you'll get the fee schedule next week with better information. Like Jason said, he's got kind of a packet to go along with it, showing the cost for the hourly rate and stuff. So that's all coming with the fee schedule next week to finance committee.
That'll be fun, right? So, you know, because
Next week or the 8th, whatever day it is.
whether it's
The 8th, I believe.
Yeah.
or whether it's Carrie or Gwendolyn or whoever, you know, if you guys are looking at your cost of development, permitting fees, whatever specifically you're looking at, you know, I really don't want to hear any more discussions about people complaining about particular permit fees when, you know, you're going to have this in front of you, and if you're going to believe what they're shoveling at you, that you're going to, you know, this is what it is, because there's a million other ways to do this. And, you know, if, don't complain about it if you're going to buy off on this kind of a
No,
process.
and I totally,
Right.
that's my, we are very high, like looking around at different cities, we are very high, like our actual permits are not. It's the rest of
That's
cost.
That's almost a separate subject.
Yeah.
right?
That's a completely separate subject.
But some of our permit fees are like over certain dollar amounts, they are significantly higher.
They'll have-
And then we have
Well, and we
resubmittal
can
fees.
certainly
and
take
double
the time
resubmittal.
needed. I'm sorry. We can certainly take the time needed, you know, if we need a couple meetings to go through the fee schedule, I think
Yeah.
it's important that we do that, but it's
Yeah.
kind of a harder conversation to have right now without you guys having the information in front of you going, I don't
Yeah.
agree with that one, or I do agree with that one, you
No,
know?
yeah, and exactly. And I wanted to make sure that, you know, and it sounds like they've already done most of the work kind of thing. I didn't want them to be wasting their time if they were gonna run up against.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
they've already
5
done it.
council members, they were gonna like do all this stuff.
So what we're gonna include in the packet, what's gonna be included, and I think it's important to talk about what won't be included. So what's gonna be included in the packet, at least as it relates to permit fees, right? Building permits, land use permits, is there's going to be a Excel chart that shows what the current fee is, how many hours that fee currently covers, and then there's gonna be a column of how many fees it actually cost, right? The total cost of those fees, or the total hours, and then what that, based on those hours, what the permit fee should be. It does include our current flat rate hearing examiner contract schedule, so that could be up for discussion. The second thing that's gonna be included is a chart that includes all the permit fees for Puyallup, Ording, Sumner, Buckley, and us, and Edgewood. And then also what we call our comparable cities, so cities that are of a similar size and makeup, what they are charging for these different permits. I know for a fact that, you know, I think I sent it to Councilmember Hubler, Edgewood charged.
Sorry,
Edgewood
can I
charged significantly
Can I
more for
interrupt,
these.
Jason? I know they wanted to talk about the voucher packets too, and we only have 15 minutes left.
Oh, yeah.
Since this is all going to be included next week or the next committee meeting, I would hate for them not to have a discussion on the voucher packets because
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
so many of those that I need you guys to approve. And I just want to make sure you have some, 5 minutes to chat about that.
Can I say one last thing, Sherry, and then I will be quiet. This is real quick. Won't be in there is impact fees, connection charges, SDCs,
Yeah.
because that's a completely different analysis.
Yeah.
So any of the impact fees, connection charges, SDCs, that won't be included.
Yeah, that'll be fine. That'd be great to have that discussion and probably multiple times kind of thing. And I'll be looking for information on like the number of permit, how we're doing it right now, right? With the number of permits and how the costs come out, supporting staffs, charges. So, okay. So as Sherry mentioned, moving on to the voucher stuff, we are looking at some issues in there. And I know that Councilor Hubler and I think all the councils got some questions on, we had the charge that was associated with the expense with the, what was it?
HOA, like Fennel Ridge HOA, High Country Homes, like,
Do you know
what
of
are-
any of those, Sherry, that we have like, cause Fennel Ridge, where's that one at?
That one I do know, Sherry. If you want me to
Yep.
take that
Oh,
one,
yeah,
Go ahead.
that is the property down by Victor Falls.
Oh, that's
We
that one?
We purchased one of the properties that
Yeah.
right next to Victor
Yeah.
Falls,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
in the Fennel Ridge HOA. And since we are a
Yeah,
property owner, we have to pay the homeowner's dues, plus any
Yep.
maintenance cost.
Yep.
which is.
One
always-
year they did the road and we had to pay our portion of that.
Yeah, I know, which is fine and fun, right? And yay,
We're not paid more, we're just paid as one of the,
why do we own a piece of property there?
because we bought it.
to
It's
protect,
protect the watershed.
Oh, okay.
that's right where one of our main water sources is. And we
Kind
don't-
of, it's kind of like, really? I don't remember exactly how that goes. Yeah, because what?
It's,
Because it's like, well, it's a technical argument. It's downstream of where, because I don't remember exactly why we own, there's a good reason we have it. I
yeah,
guarantee that.
it's part of that watershed that we're trying to protect for the Victor Falls.
Just
they're at.
for people.
But we
like-
own
It
it
is a little
now,
bit-
so we have to pay our
Yeah,
dues.
we own it now.
That's for sure. There
I
is
know
that
one of the
weird-
questions was
Yeah.
credit card. There was a credit card fraud. I'm sure if you've looked at the packets, I know they all went out yesterday, today. For $6,000, $5,000 and $1,000, that has been credited back to us. The credit card made us pay it so that we didn't have an overcharge and then they gave it back to us. So that one's cleared.
Yeah, right. And I think we got all notes about that print that was like, there was a bunch of,
Yes.
that one diversity print and there was like $2,100 or something associated with that expenditure. But
There was
I
framing
guess it's
costs for that.
I guess that was a valid expense.
That's what
All-
we're curious of, how that was paid for, what fund
So-
that came from.
That is a Jerry question. I will tell you my part of it. As your finance director, I review, just like you do, all the packets. Some vouchers I approve along the way. This one in particular was part of the court grant, so it doesn't come to me for pre-approval, but I review them after the fact. And this deputy mayor asked me about this one in particular, so I looked it up and sent it along. Yeah, it's $2,100, and I believe it's covered under Jerry's grant.
Yeah, but just for the process wise, like you were identifying, it's not because we don't, we don't approve those at the council ever, of course. It doesn't sound like the mayor or the city administrator or yourself even has view on the approval authority. It's approved in the department level, I guess.
Right. So as part of everyone's budgets, they have so much money and this was part of their grant. So those are approved through whoever was told to go purchase it. I'm just going to say it's Carla. I don't know who it was. So say Carla's told to go and frame this, she'll pay for it. Then it goes up the approval to Jerry and then the judge. eventually I see everything just like you do with the voucher packets. There are
Yeah.
some things that I question and, then send information along. This is not one that I question because this would be
Sure.
as
Yeah.
part of their approved grant, and this isn't something that would come forward.
Yeah, but they have some kind of approval authority. How does,
That's what I'm
okay,
curious
yeah,
about.
go ahead, Jerry.
Every department has approval authority.
Yes, when we got the print, we got the quote for the frame, and I sent a picture of the print, the history, and the frame to the AOC, finance that's in charge of the grant, and they gave us the approval. We don't approve it on our own, especially for something that large. It does go through them first, and then once they approve it, then we can move forward with it. But
Yeah.
we do, yeah.
But doesn't that, it's kind of a small print to me, doesn't it? Doesn't somebody like when it costs like whatever it was, $2,700?
$2,100.
Isn't that kind of $2,100?
That just seems
Doesn't that seem extreme?
outrageous.
No, I don't know what
to
was
me
the,
to print,
what was it framed
to
in?
pay for something. And so in my understanding is that the money came from the housing budget or something like that for that grant. Like that to me is just not the correct way to spend grant money, especially if we're supposed to be being smart with our money and using that money to help people that do need actual help. And so $2,100 could have helped a lot of other people and done a lot of other things.
I don't know about a housing grant. I don't know where AOC gets their money for the grants. I can check into that and find out from them where the funding actually comes from. I just know
I
that
mean,
it's
on
through
our
the
end.
It came out of the
judge
court
said
grant.
Came out of sober support, which.
Came out of-
was
yeah, she said-
emergency Sober
She said
support.
sober
housing.
support housing when she talked to us in, at that meeting. And
Oh,
so that's why we're
when-
curious of like, how are we spending $2,100 of sober support housing money to pay for framing of a picture?
I would
You know,
have
'cause
to get
yeah.
together with Judge Daniels to answer that
Uh,
question for you.
Yeah, because I think from our perspective, again, like at the council level, we don't approve things, it's not our job. We get to review them and kind of talk about.
Well, we
But we get to
approved,
scratch our head about.
we
like, wait a
approved
minute,
what the
wait a
judge
minute,
submitted to us though, correct? That she says, hey, this is what I'm gonna spend this money on. And if this is her budget and this is how she wants to spend the money, and we approve that she spent this money on these things. And then anytime that she wants to change something in that budget, like recently, you guys asked for $150 per week to spend for that extra person to come in and talk with people in the courts or something like that. So if that's a change in a budget right there, this would be a change in a budget that would have to, my feelings would have to come to finance committee and go, hey, guys, you're spending extra money that wasn't accounted for in this particular budget already.
So for me, I think Councilmember Hubler, what she's trying to convey, Jerry, is it sounds like if the newspaper were, say, to put this on, their front page, that's kind of the test I always try to use with folks, right? If people saw this, would it pass the smell test? And it doesn't sound like it really would. To me, I was asked personally about this, what I thought, and I said, it seems excessive to me. I agree. So I think what they're saying is, really think about it, kind of like the plane tickets that were asked for upgraded seats. Is that really the best use of grant money? No, it doesn't comply with city policy, so I returned it and you guys didn't get to do that, but you said the grant would cover it. So I think before checking to see if the grant would cover for something, it sounds like the council would prefer kind of a smell test on it. Do you think the general public would be okay if they knew we were paying for upgraded seats to send people with community court money? Do you think the public would be okay if they knew we spent $2,100 when you could probably go buy a cheaper Walmart frame for, $100, right? I think that's kind of what we're trying to convey. Is that right, Councilmember Hubler?
Yeah, and that's literally the letter that we all got in our mailboxes was, I didn't know that this money was spent. until we got a letter in our mailboxes that said over $2,000 was spent for this frame. And if this was true, I'll just read it to you. I am a concerned citizen. I have heard talk of this artwork in the city building, and there are rumors that the court paid over $2,000 for the frame. Is this true? If so, this is a disgrace of how funds are spent. Couldn't those funds have been spent on something better? I would like to hear this being addressed at a meeting. And so that to me, as soon as I was like, what? Why would we spend $2,000 on a frame? I couldn't imagine spending that on a frame for my own house.
Yeah.
And if it came from funding that should have been spent on the people that were supposed to be helping in community court, I don't think that was appropriate way to spend that money.
Because it's hard for us at the council level, right? We, again, we don't control what staff does directly, but, we don't want to be in a position where we have to do it indirectly by draconian, stupid policies where it's like, everything needs to be approved by 12 people or something like that. It makes it very inefficient. So that's kind of, I don't know where that's gonna go, but we'll find out about it. And the other one real quick that I had a question I mailed you guys on, because looking through all the vouchers and everything like that, there was one that we had out on the voucher list 823. And it kind of, I don't know, these are this famous. I'm glad these are still in the same format they were like 200 years ago. They're hard to read. So Costco, and it's on page 62 of the voucher list, but in the packet, it's like 67 that you can read off. It was a Costco charge for, it was quite substantial. What's BLTCC lobby the snack or whatever? What are you using for? It's hard to tell where these go.
So I did look that one up too.
1581.
Deputy Mayor, that's
Okay.
another community court one. They bought snacks and I've sent that along for questioning the cost. It's not consistent with city policy, so I'll let Jerry speak to that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, so when the judges attended their conference here a few months ago, they were informed of studies that show that individuals who come to court, quite a few of them, they're financially low. Some of them don't eat breakfast when they come in or don't have the breakfast, and some of them are coming off of work and don't stop to eat. And they're finding when individuals are coming to court and they're not nutritionally ready for the day facing before them, they're not able to cognitively function or focus on their court hearings. And so at this conference, they found this judge had started providing just small snacks before, in the lobby area for people coming to court. And so these snacks consist of like protein bars and and juices. There's nothing, no like potato chips or candy or nothing like that. It's all good nutritional granola bars, stuff like that. And
Is
what
that
we
through the
did,
grant again kind of thing? I'm sorry to cut you short,
Yeah.
Jerry. We gotta kind of go, but is that through the
Yeah.
grant again or something?
It is through the grant, but it's not consistent with city policy. So again, this one
Yeah,
doesn't
that's what
pass the
I'm trying
smell
to figure out,
test,
right?
and I would from my perspective, it should go to the finance committee, to the council to decide if they want to go against policy in the future. This is not something that I can authorize because
normally the purchase isn't that large, but when that funding ended
it doesn't matter
and the
how
new one
large it is.
began,
It doesn't matter how large it is,
Okay,
though.
okay,
We can't buy
Sherry?
food for folks unless the
Yeah.
council authorizes it. It's against our city policy.
Right. Yeah, so there's all those kind of issues. Thank you very much. Sorry, we got to
Hey,
run.
sorry, guys.
Kind of looking.
We do want to talk more and we do want to go more, but.
Did you want to bring this one issue back to the next meeting?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, guys.
September 18th, we didn't